Hi guys, I'm Shmi. Hello and welcome to the Bahrain International Circuit, where I'm here for the global media launch of the new Lamborghini Huracan EVO, the update to Lamborghini's baby, if we can call it that, V10 supercar. It features a whole host of new upgrades, changes, modifications to the design, and today we're going to go into it all in detail, get an experience driving it here at the Formula 1 track, and then later on out on the roads too. So let's get started and take in the sights and sounds of the new Huracan EVO as one comes blasting by, or even two. Down the start straight here at the Bahrain International Circuit. Just listen to the noise of these as they come by. One of the best things, the sound they make. And off they go. So it will be my turn to drive one of these noisy beasts very shortly. We'll go through the different driving modes, talk about Strada, Sport and Corsa and how they've changed from before, and how some of the Performante's features have influenced the new EVO as well. So I think actually that might be happening almost straight away, to jump in, to go for a drive, to see what it's like, and later on actually to get another stint on the track as night starts to fall. I know you can't really see them, but hearing them, they sound mega, really mega, blasting around almost endlessly. Here we have a small grid formation then of the latest model from Lamborghini's lineup of raging bulls, the Huracan EVO. EVO for Evoluzione, the update, the midlife cycle, almost facelift or refresh to the Lamborghini Huracan, the baby or entry model in their range beneath the Aventador, but still powered, as you're about to hear again, by the 5.2 litre naturally aspirated V10, mid-engine mounted, all-wheel drive, but now with rear-wheel steering, which will help with the dynamic control. And in fact, a lot of the updates to the car come in the form of software that really makes it more manageable and also more fun. Developments over the years since the Huracan was introduced. You can see some of the design elements that have come from the Performante. That's been a big influence, the Performante being the lighter, more stripped-out, track-focused version, but also the exhaust tailpipes that have moved now towards those central, very large dominant positions, whereas before they were down towards the outsides, but also new aero. You can see through the aero through the integrated spoiler there at the back. In fact, the car has 7 times more downforce than the original Huracan did, the LP610. So the engine is making 640 horsepower, 600 Newton meters. As you just heard, it does sound very, very good. And we've got a sea of them here. In fact, what do we have? About 10 or so Huracan EVOs in a line here in the pit lane at the Bahrain International Circuit. So I'll go over things in a lot more detail later on, but I think it's going to be my turn very shortly to jump on board one of these, to take it for a quick spin around the track to see what it's like. Here we go then, take a step inside, let's get the car started up. V10 comes into life, that's in Strada mode. If I then go through Sport, just beeping to put my seatbelt on, you can hear it gets louder as the valves open up, and then you can go one more into Corsa, dashboard changes too. That's a fantastic sound. Now in here you've got the new interface as well. I'll show you through all of this and how you can use gestures on it. It has track telemetry and data and all of those kind of things. I will start the drive in Sport. We'll save Strada, which is literally Italian for road, until we're on the road later on. Air conditioning, let's not have it blowing, just press here in the center too strongly at the moment. That's all fine. Just to make sure I'm grounded, I know what's going on. I'm going to be following my buddy in front of us, Jerome Mull, Lamborghini driver. He knows a thing or two. We've got a lead-follow kind of setup, one car setting the pace and then me following. We can go through ESC traction. We're in Sport to begin with, ESC Sport, so let's keep it there. I think it's time to go. So let's get a feel for what this is like out on a Formula 1 track.
Alright, if you're ready, then we're good to roll out.
Definitely, let's do it. Cool. Okay, so you can go into gear, manual, that will then be manual. You've got a controller down here. I'll show you all around the interior later on. So, we're in a satin grey car. Looks very cool looking at the one in front. And it's about to be time to go and approach this track. So we'll have a slightly easier first lap, sighting lap, and then we will up the pace going forward. So, off we head then. Out the pit lane, to go and drive Bahrain International Circuit, a track that I have always wanted to drive. gently easing in, but the sounds are what makes this car, and I think we're about to hear a whole lot more of them.
Clear, we're good to go.
That's the go-ahead then. We've got a slightly adjusted circuit for today, but I feel like it's going to be really rather entertaining. You can lean on the four-wheel drive system, and then because we're in sport mode, when you would hit the red line, it will automatically upshift the car. You don't need to worry about bouncing off the limiter. Just drop it down some gears myself with a tight corner here, and you can really start to feel how you can also let it play and slide around. That's traction in sport. Yeah, okay then. Brakes, confident, inspiring. We've got a group just ahead of us though that are doing some filming, so we'll hopefully have an opportunity to pass them. But there we go. How much fun is that? Down, full power, all 640 horses in action. So let's use this opportunity to go into Corsa mode. Dashboard changes, as you can hear immediately, no more automatic upshifting, way more aggressive shifts. Just listen to the sound of those, and I know as I get the upshifts now, they're going to be even more violent. There we go, wow, what a kick! Every shift is violent, it's aggressive, it's exciting, it's what a car like this should be. As we get to 240 kilometers an hour, 250, 260, 270, and we go early onto the brakes from that ridiculous speed down there. Feel a little bit of movement under braking all the way down to second gear before we tuck it in and get back on the power again. And you can just confidently insert as much power as you want. The car will take it. It's got four-wheel drive. You can feel the four-wheel steering system on the tight, twisty corners that give you just a touch more agility as a result. But the sound, it's so loud inside this cabin. It's so loud, but so much fun too. A touch of understeer there towards the exit, and of course with the fixed paddles, I missed the shift because my hands are on the wheel. Small little complaint, you need to prepare in advance and take the gear that you're going to need. But I'm having a lot of fun throwing this car very hard around the Bahrain circuit. Feed the power in, all the way to the red line at 8,700 RPMs. So much power, firm on the brakes here. I just keep downshifting more than I need because the noise is so cool. But you can cling on through the corner. This is where in a rear-wheel drive car you have less ability to be so early on the power, and that's why this thing is so quick. The gearbox is super fast as well, the speed at which you go from one gear into the next. But let's pop it back into sport mode, because sport is definitely slightly more playful. That's where you can tell that it wants to let you chuck the back around a little bit more, and then gives you so much confidence to pull away crazily. So here you just let it slide a little, but you can feed back in the power, and the car knows what it's doing. Bang! Just want to go bang, bang, bang. Oh, what a lot of fun. Yes, Lambo, yes! So we blast past the other group. This is amazing. Okay then, cool down time. So let's pop it back into Strana mode, where things will get a little bit quieter. Oh, he's having fun there. I'm gonna press manual as well, just so it goes automatic on the gearbox. And it gets substantially quieter. It's a very noisy car inside here. Oh yeah, listen to that, 7th gear. Almost silent, that's how it transforms into the daily driver that we'll experience out on the roads later on. I think I need to use some gears to actually downshift and save the brakes while we're cooling them down after driving. Well, really quite hard so far. So this is where the throttle response is noticeably less significant. You know, I have to press a lot further to actually get anything out of the car. And I know that if you put it back into automatic mode, there we go, back into auto, you have to actually, you know, my foot is really low down now and it's barely downshifting. You have to engage the kick down to actually get it to drop significantly. Let's do this without the brake. Yeah, sounds good even without the valves fully opened. So, first experience on the track then has been a hilarious amount of fun. It's a very usable car, a very approachable car. Perhaps, yes, okay, it's dynamically better than the original Huracan, There's a little bit more with the dynamic steering that slightly irks me. It's not quite where I want it to be, as you might get in some of the competitors, and you have to think about the money. This is a £206,000 car, so it's straight on with the 720S and the 488 GTB, right up there in those territories, a marked step up from the previous generation. However, you can feel that Performante character coming through, and it's made for a really enjoyable drive. So let's head back to the pit lane and get a better look around the car in detail before the road drive later on. You know what, back in the pit lane, let's just drop it into Corsa, window switch here in the centre. Listen to this. Yeah, mega. Farewell to this one for the moment. And this is the man I was driving with. Jeroen, how are you?
All good, all good. Great to have you again.
That was good fun.
That was good, isn't it? Yeah, you were doing good.
You've driven this a fair amount. In fact, guys, you might remember Jeroen. We did the Aventador S, the SVJ. I think that might be it. But
I think that might be it, yeah.
No bad times, no bad times. So, come on, sum it up for me. Sum up the car.
Well, for me, personally, it sums up in just one word, and that's playful.
Okay, yeah.
And the tagline of the car is everyday amplified, and all the features of the car is just amplified, if not just the exhaust note. But
yeah, the exhaust is crazy. So sport mode versus Corsa mode. In sport mode, it just lets you play and let the back go around and have some fun.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, sport mode has always been the fun mode for Lamborghini. Corsa mode literally means track in Italian, so it really focuses on going as fast as possible around the track. The sport mode just helps you enjoy the car, and it actually, with the four-wheel steering system, it puts the rear wheels in the opposite direction between 70 and 150, if I'm not mistaken, on the exit to kick the tail out a little bit. So
that makes some sense.
Fun.
So that's why it happens. Well, thank you very much. That was awesome.
Very well.
Looking forward to driving it again later. While we're here in the pit lane with various cars moving around, let's just talk a little more about the design of the Huracan. So still very much Lamborghini Huracan. You can see a lot of the updates. Wow, that sounds good. A lot of the updates and changes, a lot of inspiration from the Performante, and the new Evo is only 40 kilos heavier than the Performante, which is not a hugely significant number when you start to think about it. So around the rear, those Performante influences with the exhaust system, the super lightweight exhaust, which, as we've heard, sounds mega. That's all coming out from that 5.2 litre naturally aspirated V10. And at the back here, you also have the firing order of the 10 cylinders written out, a traditional Lamborghini thing that they like to do on their different cars. With the all-wheel drive, 0 to 62 miles an hour, 100 kilometers an hour, is just 2.9 seconds thanks to the launch control, and it will go on to 200 kilometers an hour, 124 miles per hour in only 9 seconds. This is a very, very quick car, and onto a top speed of 325 or 202 miles per hour, 325 kilometers per hour. Around the back, you've got lots of openings. The fins of the diffuser, all very much focused on aerodynamics and making the car smooth and slippery. You've got a new wheel design, which I'll just show you here. I think this is the launch car Arancio Exanto, I think maybe it's pronounced, with the dual tone wheels, the carbon ceramic brakes inside them, and this car with the gloss black accent parts around. If we come around towards the front, actually past the side skirt, you've got this new or larger opening here for additional cooling coming through the car, and the Huracan EVO badge instead of the LP640 badge, which is worn by the Performante. Basically, the engine, as you can hear, is that pretty much from the Performante, but with the dynamics being updated in general all around. So at the front of the car, you have that Y-shaped design inside the headlights. You have a new Y design here to the bumper, new bumper for the car versus the older generation. And look at that, you can see how open it is for airflow, for efficiency, and also for maximum performance. And well, it doesn't feature the ALA that we saw in the Performante, but it does have Lamborghini's new LDVI, which I will show you. Lamborghini Dinamica Veicolo Integrata, if I try and get the name exactly right, which is basically bringing in the four-wheel drive system, the rear-wheel steering, the gearbox, the traction control, and the torque vectoring to optimize response, responding in 20 milliseconds to all of the various inputs. Yes, that sounds good. So this car is about to head on out in a second, but even just the idle burble of the V10 is a good sound. From the track to the road then. The Huracan EVO is of course the road version. It's not the Performante, so most of its life will be spent in the normal road environment. So let's go and discover now what this car is like. The same one that I was driving actually on the circuit earlier on. And you can see behind we also have a brace of Uruses, in fact 4 Uruses. There are some more tucked at the back and 2 Aventador SVJs as well. But this is the car. Let's come through. I can show you a little bit more about it. It's running at the moment so that the air conditioning is in full force as the Urus with its twin turbo V8 goes by. This particular car has the comfort of the 3 different seat options. You can hear that the climate control is in full force. You have manual toggle just to turn that down a notch there. We're set for Strada mode, and you can also see I've got the reversing camera on the display at the moment from when it was parked up just here. I'll go through this in more detail for you later on so that you can see how all of this works exactly. But just quickly in here, if we go to LDVI that I mentioned earlier, Lamborghini Dinamica Veicolo Integrata, where you can see what it's doing basically with the different elements and how it's intelligently calculating what's going on and adjusting appropriately every 20 milliseconds based on how you want to be driving the car. But this one is calling my name. The roads will be clear out ahead, so let's go have a drive and see what it's like. Okay then, so into gear, let's head on out, and all is set. And I'll start in Strada mode because of course, as I said, it's a road car. Strada is road in Italian, Corsa is track in Italian. So this is the mode that most of these cars will spend their life in. So you can feel that the 7-speed automatic gearbox, we're already up into 3rd, is seamless and quiet in the background. It just does its thing, moving from one gear up into the next. That's where one thing I noticed actually earlier on the track during the cool down in Strada mode, unless you kick down, it basically doesn't really drop a gear. So the breadth in terms of automatic response has changed. Corsa will behave instantly. You slightly touch the throttle and it will drop a gear. And we're actually about to go through a little tunnel. So let's go down 1, or rather go down 2 into Corsa mode, drop some gears. The window switch is just here. It's really loud, this car, right? So back up again, back to Strada. Let's keep it sensible for the moment, and 1 press of the manual button to go back into drive, basically into automatic. So depending how you start the car, depends what mode it will be in. And then when you've shifted manually, it will revert back automatically if you don't interact with it. So obviously you've got a big digital dashboard. The seats are pretty decent. After driving the Performante with its pretty solid sport bucket seat, I am enjoying having the more comfortable seat option back in the car. Now there is also a new interim middle seat option that I can show you when we have a look around the exhibit later on. A sports seat that's between the two, which might actually be a really good option for the Huracan EVO. Now I'm going to see how all of the tech actually works later on when I can run you through it all. For the moment, let's just get a feel of driving the car and what it's like, and you can hear the slight noise from the brakes. Clearly it's been doing some track work. We're running on the Pirelli P0 Corsa tyres. They do a normal P0. Now this is the thing actually, I'm pressing down on the throttle and nothing's happening. It kept it in 6th gear. It wasn't very keen to give me the power that I actually wanted in Strada mode. The car will always turn on in Strada, but I actually think I want it in Sport just so that I'm going to get a little bit more response there. Small press, maybe even too responsive, but it drops down the gears much quicker, as well as giving you some more noise, which is generally just good fun. And that also put it into ESC Sport, which you can manually change to be completely off or back into Sport. You can't have normal traction in Sport mode. Tyres, I was saying, Corsa, the middle option, the right option, I think, especially for this kind of environment. Fair wires on the road can be a little bit nuts, should we say. P0 is not necessarily the best for the track. Just dropping down some gears. In Sport mode, you can hear all those bangs and pops and cracks and noises that you get out of it. So, got a police car right alongside me here, so maybe I probably shouldn't be so noisy going past him, but just gently feeding the power in, getting some of the noise out of it. Hey, check this out. Pretty cool looking GTR. Nice modifications that has got the car, and we're going to have a little bit of a tunnel again. It's a tunnel bridge, I guess we could call it, somewhere in the middle, which is always the opportunity. That guy is on it to just drop down again, and maybe another one. Wow! You have to hold on tight when you put the power down. I mean, I think I knew that from the track earlier, but this car is quick. Really quick. Anyway, this is a lot of messing around in Sport mode, but it's not unreasonably bumpy. The ride is pretty compliant. even in sport. I'm sure if I go into Corsa, I'm going to feel much more of that instantly. You can feel more of the bumps, which is what you want. You want the handling feel or the feel of the road back through the steering wheel. You go the other way to Strada mode, and it changes very quickly. The display changes as well. It becomes this civilized, comfortable car that we know, the Huracan. Now, the one thing I don't like about, well, the two things I don't normally like about the Huracan, one is the firmness of the seats. We don't have that problem with these seats like you did in the Performante. The other is the relative lack of space. And when I do my tour, I will remind you how small the bonnet is in this car, but it is not practical if you're looking for a car to go away on a road trip with. There just isn't much room. There's not much room behind the seats, there's not much room up front, and it's a pretty compact car overall. So its purpose as this more everyday supercar is slightly ironic when you consider that there isn't really room to actually put much stuff in it. You know, if you want to go to the shops, you're going to struggle a bit. The indicators on the steering wheel on the left-hand side, I'm used to it, but it definitely takes some learning, because whether you want to go left or right, it's all done from the left side, from this little toggle with your thumb. Just takes a little bit of familiarity, and then it becomes second nature. Lights, also the button just above, and your wipers are controlled through the right-hand side of the steering wheel. You can change the display, you can bring up different things. I'll show you more of that later on. Seating position-wise, because it's a small car, you have a good view. There's not much going on in front of you. The front scuttle is very, very low, straight ahead. Mirrors, you've got a great view of the intakes at the side, but they're quite close, so well positioned. Rear visibility, not the best because of the way that the rear window frames itself and positions, but not the worst either. You can see what's going on. You can see through those vented slats as well at the back. So you have a pretty good idea of what's happening behind you. Now, it's clearly a little bit busy just in this section, but let's try and move a lane just behind this guy, head on over. But, you know, it blends along in normal traffic just fine. You give... That's where I want it to drop a gear, in Strada mode. It's too extreme towards the comfort end in Strada for me. I want a little bit more out of it. This is a slight change of scenery from earlier. I'm currently crossing the King Fahd Causeway, which is a rather long section of bridge across the water. Yeah, we are surrounded by ocean pretty much everywhere. It links some of the islands. Bahrain is a series of many islands connected together, and this is a very, very, very long stretch across from the main area where BIC is, the racetrack, heading around just to explore other parts of the country. Pulled over for a moment, but if you continued that way across the King Fahd Causeway, you'd actually get to Saudi Arabia, and then that way is back to the Kingdom of Bahrain. Here we are, right beside the sea, with the new Huracan EVO. So not necessarily, I guess, the most thrilling of places to drive. We're not on some twisty roads like in the Alps or something. But getting a feel for normal driving of the car, something completely different to being out on the track earlier. The more, I guess as they're putting it, the more natural habitat for this, because it's not the Performante, but it does use that Performante engine, and it does sound oh so sweet. Anyway, let's continue the drive and head back towards Bahrain. I'm going to demonstrate here what I'm saying about the kickdown. So I'm in Strada mode, normal driving mode, how the car is when you turn it on. If I wanted a spurt of power, if I press firmly down on the throttle, basically it will drop down to 6th, but that's as much power as you're going to get out of it. That was put almost to the floor bar the kickdown. If you wanted anything more than that, so anything more than it dropping just one gear, because you know, that's all it's going to do, and I do kickdown, let me demonstrate what happens now. So, foot down, yeah, that happens. So yes, you get a lot of power, but it drops to the lowest gear that it can be in at that speed, and obviously it gets very loud and makes you jump massively. There's nothing in the middle in Strada mode. It's either next to no power or loads of it, and they've done that intentionally because they wanted to make the car more usable and broaden the spectrum of how the gearbox operates. But I'm not a fan of that. I'm not a fan of that at all, because just want a little bit more and you can't get it. Normally a small press might drop it to 6th, a firmer press might drop it to 5th, even more so to 4th, and then all the way to 3rd. If you're in sport mode, just to talk about this, so it's obviously just actually dropped us down to 6th because we're slowing down as it is anyway in the current traffic flow. But here, if I give a little press, it starts going down the gears very, very quickly, and that was just a very gentle press on the throttle pedal. Oh, we've got a Maserati Quattroporte coming past, but now, yeah, I like this. This is much more organic and natural in sport for me, as opposed to that weird behaviour in Strada. Now, Strada is obviously the homologated mode, so that's where it runs through all the tests and gets approved, it gets its road verification and legality and that side of things. So they do kind of have a tendency to have to make that mode efficient, high gear,
not noisy, because noisy is a big thing with regulations nowadays. But here, at 90 kilometers an hour, just press a little bit. I ended up pressing all the way, that's why it got quite so noisy. That wasn't the best demonstration of that at all, but it'd be interesting to see how long it takes to get back. Yeah, so in sport mode it's going to take a while to get back up through the gears and realise that I'm not actually doing that much. But just generally press it down a little bit, it just starts dropping down slightly more responsibly. In Corsa mode, you basically need to do it yourself. It's so loud. And the display's kind of cool as well, with the sweeping rev counter pushing away the speedometer to the bottom corner. The cracks are great, the sound is great. And it feels, so dynamic steering, for normal driving, it's light, it's easy, you can feel it weightens up in Corsa versus Strada in particular, but it's just not quite there for on-it driving to me. There's a bit more weight with the four-wheel drive system at the front end. Every moment doing that's just funny. Going back into Strada though, that's where it comes into being a benefit, an automatic gearbox, because it's light, and light steering makes for a more chilled drive. And at the end of the day, a lot of owners of these cars use them in everyday environments. They spend a lot of time doing exactly that. So you can see why it's done that way, just not necessarily my favourite thing in terms of the throttle response or the software that's doing the kickdown side of things and the steering feel. We'll get back though, and I'll think a little bit more about it. You know what? Back to first gear. It just takes off. It's so good. And with four-wheel drive, there's no loss of grip or weighting. The naturally aspirated engine, instant power, early torque as well in this. Yeah. Dynamically, very, very capable. And here we are actually just now returning to the Bahrain International Circuit, home of motorsport in the Middle East, the home of the Formula 1 Grand Prix in Bahrain, and today, home of the Huracan EVO launch.
How is this then for a setting to film a little bit more with the car just in front of the grandstands and the start straight at the Bahrain circuit, the tower behind me just over to that side. But let's go through this in more detail, including the interior. And this car is taking a lot of wear out on the track. We've got the noises of others blasting around, but we're going to focus mostly on the inside for the minute to show you what's going on inside here. Now you're greeted in this car in particular with the lovely blue accents. So you have those through the door panel, you have the floor mats with the Huracan embroidery, and also the inserts that you have through the seats. So like I mentioned, you've got 3 different seat options. You can see the electric seat controls just down there. But let's take a step inside here. It's quite a small steering wheel, sporty feel to it, with the fixed paddles that you have behind. The start button is here in the centre, so you can opt to lift this up, or you can actually just press it straight through should you prefer. So foot on the brake, bring it into life. Come back on in Strada mode. Now one little trick you can actually do with this, if I just shut it back off for the second, if you don't have your foot on the brake, you can turn on just the ignition. So wake the car up, pop it, let's say, into Corsa mode, and then start it straight in Corsa mode. And it's just a touch, just a little bit louder. Now I'm going to pop my seatbelt on because otherwise it's going to chime away at us in the background. Just click that in down there. Pop it back into Strada for the moment. You can see the differences in the screen. So Strada mode, blue, not so much aggression to it. Then you go up into Sport, where you get the yellow or orangey touches. And then all the way into Corsa, where it completely changes and gives you this all new view. And that is where you get such good sounds. This thing is absurd. The noises that it makes, just absolutely bonkers. Let's just take it back into Strada mode to quieten things down for a moment. So you have some controls for the displays. You have your cruise control on the right. The anima toggle is where you go through the different modes, and like I mentioned, indicators and lights on the left, wipers over on the right. Other than that, fairly small steering wheel. You've got the hexagonal pattern here. Hexagonal shapes appear just about everywhere. The air vents, the dashboard binnacle, all of the trim panels, even the speaker, the Sentinel sound grille you have there. You'll notice all of the different shapes, the handles, the grabs as well. Everything has 6 sides or is a Y shape. It's all this design language that carries all the way through, even inside the grills themselves, not just the surround around the outside of them. Even here on the mirror controls, on the surround, it's just about everywhere you look, and I really quite like that. Down here you have some of your light controls, your side lights, toggles, those kind of things. Down in the footwell you have the button to open and close, or sorry, to close, to open the bonnet, and also the engine bay. We'll see those shortly. Over in the centre, your windows, now I always point this out, but they go the wrong way. So to put the window down, you press it up, and that puts the window down. To close it, you pull it down, which is unnatural to me. It feels like it's backwards. Now the other buttons that you have up here, your start stop if you'd like to disable that, your parking sensors, hazard lights, traction control to go into sport mode or turn it fully off. Then you've got the front nose lifter, so giving a pull of that will raise the front end of the car. You get a little symbol that it's doing so there on the dash. To actually put it back down, you need to close the door for the balance of the car, and then of course the window switches are at the far end. We currently have the key wedged in up here, so you can see what the key for the car looks like. It is, well, basically an Audi style key with the Lamborghini logo. Some people might want a little bit more from it, but I guess it does the job, and they wedged them just in here for the launch so that they don't go anywhere. If I just close the door for a second so that I can put the lift system back down, you can hear almost the whoosh as the air is let out and the front end lowers itself back. So it takes around a little bit over 5 seconds, I would say. But then beneath that is the main thing to talk about, the new HMI, the 8.4-inch touchscreen that you have here to control everything. Now this is kind of influenced from the Centenario, the one-off series that had a large screen here, but you can do all of your different controls through this. So from the front screen, for example, if I press vehicle here, you can go into the LDVI, he says. Let's bring that up. There we go. And this is where, like I briefly alluded to earlier, you can see all of the different information. So the distribution of the power between the different wheels, where everything's lighting up between the different axles, I should say, and the all-wheel steering system, which goes up to 3 degrees in each direction for dynamic ability at slow speeds and stability at high speeds. And you can just get all of that information in a visual display, and I always think that kind of thing is quite cool. Down at the bottom, you can jump straight back to home, where you've got your track telemetry information. Jump back, your car settings, your radio, your navigation. You can see that pops us, and this all responds very, very quickly. Your sound settings, phone apps, and then in the middle your hotkeys also to media and telephone. There are a few other things. For example, you can swipe up with 2 fingers on the screen, which will raise and lower the volume if the radio is on, and other gesture controls that you can do to interact. And then up at the very top you have all your climate control settings, so you can change everything directly through that and head back towards the home screen. So I think it's quite cool to have LDVI up when you're just driving around, just to see something that's going on. So I like that. You used to have a couple of displays here, a few pressure gauges and things with the Huracan in the previous generation. So this is all a major update in terms of the technology that you have inside. Just looking around a little bit more, you can see the seat in a touch more detail, Lamborghini crest embroidery up on the very top of the headrest, and then just a very small amount of space behind. You might fit a laptop bag or briefcase behind each seat, but nothing lower down than this rear shelf. Not much room down there. And then here, a couple of USB ports to plug in and charge, and then a rubber pad just in here to stop anything that's sliding around next to your 12-volt socket, and this armrest pad you have here with the carbon effect style leather, I think we can call it, that's got going on. And then looking back, you get the view into the engine bay. Now interestingly, to actually open the engine bay, the car needs to have the ignition on, but let's open up the rear hatch there, click, and the front boot, so we can open those up. And then I'm going to switch it off and just jump outside Huracan EVO logo that you have on the dashboard and show you from the exterior what those look like. So quite low, not the widest of sills because it's not a carbon fibre tub like some of the competitors have these days, but open up the back in there, you can get a little bit of a better view at the engine, quite deep and far away and installed inside the car. But what I was talking about, the visibility earlier, this kind of obscures a little bit this panel that you have there. So if I close this back down, it's on hydraulic struts, give it a click into place. The way that works takes away some of your lower visibility and gives you quite a high rear shoulder, but I think without that you'd still have it anyway by having this spoiler at the back, so it doesn't necessarily change too much. Of course, all of this is as open as possible for cooling. You can see the exhaust system inside, very cool, but even down here behind the wheels, as much airflow to come out the back as possible. And then around towards the front, inside the front trunk, excuse how dirty the car is. One of my problems with it, not the largest amount of space in the world. In fact, you might get one wheelie case in here, like a trolley bag that you could take on an aeroplane, and that's about it. That would sit in the bottom and come up to about here, and then just one or two, maybe a jacket on top of that. So this isn't great. It's under 100 litres, maybe it's 90 litres or so of luggage space in the front. It's quite awkward and hard to fit much in there. There's another car blast past, doing some filming, I think, out on the trackside. So just walking around though, looks department, win. Sound department, win. Usability, somewhere in the middle. Drivability and dynamics, pretty incredible to be honest, using the learnings of the Performante. And yeah, I think so far so good. So I believe next up, well actually I'm going to head into the exhibition behind to show you the new seats, which I really quite like, and then later on it'll be time to do a night drive out on the track too. Heading back to the pit garage, by the way, I'm just going to point out green, white and red Italian flag going on here with the SVJs and the Urus. Always a very special little display that Lamborghini put on. What we have in here then is another car in the launch colour, the Arancia Xanto, but around that are some of the demonstrations of what you can have from Lamborghini's Ad Personam, where you can really let your imagination run wild in terms of paint colours, some liveries, materials for the interior, patterns, embroidery, stitching, different, basically every single element that you can change. And they've also got the full configurator here where you can adjust and literally spec it up like you would inside a dealer. And then over at the back, if we just come through and take a quick look at this. This is the new sport seat that I was talking about. So it has 6-way adjustability. It's kind of a bucket in the sense that it has lateral grip. You can get them in 3 different sizes, but it's not the full-on fixed bucket seat. It's just a lighter weight carbon fiber sports seat. And I feel like this would be the option to have. And I particularly like the way you have the handle for sliding it forwards and back at the front. So that is a very, very nice seat option that is available for this car. But you can see a complete flurry and array of different options sitting behind it. And then over here, some of the sketches and design work done by Mircea Borchardt, designer at Lamborghini, today sketching in front of everyone. So more things to see as part of the exhibit here in the pit lane, well, in the pit boxes at the circuit. It's time! The lights are switching on! How cool is this going to be to drive the cars under floodlights here on the circuit? The lineup looks awesome, and it's only going to get better.
Okay, excited in a very big way for this. Night driving on a track. Is this probably the first time I've ever done it? Back following your own, this time in the bright orange car in front of me. Engage gear, press M to take it off automatic. Out we go! Night driving in the Huracan EVO at Bahrain International Circuit. Ease back into it. Driving under floodlights like this, for drama, excitement and unbelievable experience. Thank you Lamborghini, because this is epic. Wow, firm brakes there. Oh my goodness. Down the straight, let's pop it back into Corsa mode. Get the full bang of the gear shift. How cool is that? That's how we're driving right now. Look at this, back on the throttle. Wow. This is stupidly cool. This is actually really stupidly cool what I'm doing right now. Racing as quick as we can go around Bahrain International Circuit under floodlights in flaming Huracan EVOs. My eyes are far too focused on his exhaust tips and the flames that are coming out of the back of them. And it is oh so cool. And this is the quick pace we're carrying around the track. And now though, it's time to steady it on a notch. Let those cars come past. Yes! One more. Hey. Wow. Hazards on then, just as we head back towards the pits. This is so cool. We can do that as well. What an experience. But it's going to be time now to jump in with him and really see what it can do.
Look at that colour under the night light. So a few flybys and nice sounds first before we do the hot lap. looking forward to this. So, door handle. First time in an orange one. So you're getting bored of it yet?
After 10 days, no, not really.
No, okay. Still fun.
Yep.
Right, Corsa, Corsa traction off.
Yep, I'll just back up out of this queue.
We can get a feel for what this is all about. I suppose it's an okay lineup of cars here.
You ready?
I'm very ready. What shall I hold on to? Grab the door handle, grab handle. On tight, very, very tight, as we hurtle around there. Goodness me, the braking as well. Wow, this is ridiculous. This is absolutely ridiculous.
This is where the torque vectoring really helps.
Yeah,
slowing down that inside wheel, going into that downhill hairpin.
Unwind and all the power. And the numbers just build up and build up and build up so quickly. The braking.
And here on these high-speed corners we have the stability of the four-wheel steering system.
Yeah.
And again here, lifting, turning in. You'll see the inside front.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Vectoring.
That's quite cool actually, what that screen shows us, the live torque vectoring, front left there, front right again.
And slowing down the inside, giving some extra torque on the outside wheels just to help the car rotate.
Yeah.
Braking hard again.
It's so noisy that probably the camera can't hear you.
A little bit.
220, 230, 240, 250, 260. 70 done, down on the brakes again. Wow, that's quick.
And slow down slightly.
Catch a breath. I'm not gonna lie, I kind of need it. Being thrown around in the passenger seat here.
Yeah, wow. I mean, this thing is, I mean, if you look at this.
Nice. Very nice, casually, easy as you like. That was quite cool. That was actually really cool.
Yeah. Oh, believe me, it never gets old. It never gets old.
Yeah, and there's the smoke in the air. Nicely done. Leave some rubber on the tarmac. Wow. Wow, 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 wow. What a track. So cool to be going around here at night. And thank you very much for the demonstration of how one can drive this car.
You're very welcome, and it's definitely my pleasure. Anytime to get to throw this thing around this quick is a pleasure, and then with you in the passenger seat is always an honor. So.
Thank you very much.
You're very
Appreciate
welcome.
it. See you
As
again
always.
soon. Awesome. What an experience to wrap up the day here in Bahrain with the Huracan EVO. So what can I tell you then? After I've had a good drive myself on track, out on the road, the sound is amazing, as I've said and demonstrated to you plenty of times, and as we hear in the background now, I do find that gearbox thing in Strada mode a little bit peculiar, as do I find the lack of luggage space in a usable supercar. But I like the seats a lot, the comfort seats as opposed to the full buckets. I think the new sports seat looks like a very good option, and I've had the most incredible day today experiencing this. So good, so good. Out here in the Middle East to drive the cars properly, to fully know what they're about. I'm a little bit exhausted, I'm not gonna lie, but what a day, what a day, what a place to be, what incredible cars as well. So I hope you've enjoyed this full look to get a feel from the experience of what it's like, what it would be like to drive as an owner of one of these cars, let's say, and what it's like on the inside when you're pressing the buttons and having an explore around. But that is it for this time. Thank you very much, as always, for watching, guys. I appreciate your support, and I'll catch up with you again very, very soon. Cheers.